going home to Palau for Christmas, to my childhood friends and family. We'll take a boat ride to Rock Islands, swim and have a barbecue, and sing Palauan songs together till the light of dawn breaks through. I'm going home to Palau for Christmas, for the holidays, to the island ways. I'm going home to Palau for Christmas, to my island home across the sea. We'll take a boat ride to Rock Islands, swim and have a barbecue, sing Palauan songs together till the light of dawn breaks through. I'm going home to Palau for Christmas, for the holidays, to the island ways. I'm going home to Palau for Christmas, to my island home across the sea, to my island home across the sea. I'm going home to Palau for Christmas, for the
Ali Ali Malungil Tutao and Happy New Year Palau! Welcome to 2025. If I'm not mistaken, the date today is currently January. Oh, my calendar's gone. It's January 6th. And it's a Monday, so that means it's a great day to start off the week. Even though we had some pretty moody weather with the rain and sunshine. Like that one Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun, it's time to get going. Anyways, you might be wondering, why are you seeing me at the table for once? It's okay. I just like to say that this is a special interview with the one and only Miss Pacific Islands 2024, Moemoana Schwenke. So let's welcome her to Palau. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I was kind of worried initially that I wouldn't be able to get this interview with you, so I'm very honored and thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. And Ali, Pacific greetings and Talo Palau, everyone. As she said, I am Moemoana Safa'ato'a Schwenke, and I'm the current Miss Pacific Islands. And I'm very happy to be here in Palau for my first time. And hopefully this is the beginning of many more visits. But thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, thank you so much. So I have to ask, how's Palau been treating you so far?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I heard Palau is pristine paradise. That's the slogan, and I've definitely seen that since I've landed. I think the warmth from Palauan people has been very special, and I've been raving on about that to my family overseas. But yeah, I've been grateful to meet the people thus far, and I'm looking forward to the week ahead. And I want to give a quick shout out to the Palauan Visitors Authority for hosting me during my stay here.
Ooh, you heard that? Palau, we made a splash. We made a great first impression. I'm really happy. Palau, we're treating you so well. I gotta say, looking at the weather from last week, I was kind of worried your initial arrival wouldn't be that great, but I'm so glad you're enjoying yourself and going out, immersing yourself in the culture, but also with the people. I hope we're not too loud or scaring you off.
Actually, when we arrived at the airport, I was greeted by some of the Aidai dancers as well as a Polynesian school here.
Oh,
and
yes.
Samoan community that lives in Palau, as well as Palauans who saw the poster to come to the airport for my arrival. So you definitely have greeted myself and my team very warmly. So thank you.
I'm really glad. Yes. So, before we get into the formal interview, I just want to ask you a few fun questions, icebreakers to sort of, well, break the ice. Yes. So I gotta say, as someone who loves music and is very like, oh my gosh, my brain farted. As someone who loves music, just loves music, I gotta ask, what is your favorite genre of music?
Oh, okay. At the moment, I think it's definitely like the island reggae. Being in Samoa, and then I think everywhere I travel, I always hear island reggae songs. So definitely, that's my favorite genre.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for this, but I actually, personally, I tend to kind of go to some rock and roll. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The music itself just helps kind of like pump my brain up in the morning, and it gets me going.
Motivation.
Yes, but I do love island reggae, and what's so interesting about island reggae is that each specific island has their own variation or like form. Even though they're so, they can be similar, there's still something about it that makes it unique. And I don't major in music theory. I don't really know much about music theory, but there's something about it that that you can really tell that it's different from others. So while we're on the topic of music, do you have any favorite artists, bands, maybe?
I think I have too many to try and narrow it down, but there's a lot of Samoan, but Cook Island artists. Soon Miss Pacific is coming up in the Solomon Islands, so I've been listening to a lot of Solomon Islands reggae artists. I think I like to try and listen to a mix. Yeah, and hear the language infused with traditional sounds.
Yes, they say that there's this one quote that when language fails, music speaks. And I think that even though sometimes people are blocked by that language barrier, you could still communicate through music, whether it be through the songs, the lyrics, the instrumentals, or just the form of it. It's just, woo!
I think that's what we all have in common.
Yes.
Like telling stories through music and dance, and how I think we're all natural born storytellers, and that's definitely a way that we can connect. Yesterday when we went on our Aidai cultural tour, I heard the traditional singing. That was really beautiful as well. Yeah.
Yes, the Palauan chants just takes you to a whole new realm. So while we're actually, I don't want to miss all the major points and the important points, but I also don't want to miss the very important aspect of the interview, which is you. So please tell us anything and everything about yourself, from your personal life, if you're willing, your childhood, goals you have, or hobbies, sports, music. Do you play an instrument? I know you do dancing, so we'll get back to that in a bit. But yes, please tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Samoan. I was born in Samoa, but I spent a lot of my childhood between New Zealand and Australia. And it was actually through the pageant that I've moved back home to Samoa. And I think it's been a blessing, because I feel like I've always been called to go back home and just be on the soils that my people come from. So that's been a blessing. But like you said, I would call myself a dancer or a performing artist. I'm also very interested in being a writer and director.
Wow.
In the past, I've been a co-director and co-writer of a theatre production with our Matawai Pacific Cultural Arts, which is a cultural centre my family run. But at the moment, I'm working on a short film in Samoa, which was one of the projects to do with my reign as Miss Samoa. But I've taken a little bit longer just to ensure that the production and everything is solid. So that's some of my hobbies. I would also say I'm very passionate about the environment, and climate change is a big issue in the Pacific. And small islands are at the forefront of the effects of climate change. So I spend some of my time with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment in Samoa, and we've travelled to COP a few times to just be a voice for the Pacific, but also be that youth representative that we need, because often when government is having high-level discussions, they forget the very core of what we're fighting for, and that's our future generations. And our children and our children's children that are to come. We want to ensure that they have a beautiful, pristine island to grow up in. So I think that's a lot of what I'm passionate about. I have family. My parents and my siblings currently live in Australia, and they run a culture centre. So we spend a lot of time with different Pacific communities, but I would love to connect with more Micronesian communities in Australia and throughout the Pacific, because I think, we have so many more similarities than differences.
Yes, that was... Yes, I totally agree with you, especially the part about preserving our natural environment for the future generations to come. And I'm probably too young to be saying this now, but what I see before me as of now, I want my future children, my grandchildren to see the same thing, if not better. Like green. Green is one of my favorite colors, so I want them to see green. Yes. Could we just quickly stay on the topic of your passion and your work with the environment and environment advocacy? If I'm not mistaken, I think I read somewhere that back in 2014, please correct me if I'm wrong, that that was the year when you first started your work in environment preservation. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I actually, the pathway to being passionate about the environment was through our culture. So learning more about Samoa and about other Pacific islands, because during my teenage years I went and stayed in some islands and did the cultural festivals, but it was actually through the arts and learning more about culture that you really grasp the importance of our environment. It's pivotal to who we are. Without the land, we have really no meaning and no purpose as people. So 13 was the year I got to meet some organizations around where I live, which was Pacific Climate Warriors. And they're an organization that runs through the Pacific. I do believe that they may have some members from Palau as well. But it started off just being a lot of advocacy work, and there's a lot of protests that run in the countries that I was in. And then slowly I understood how important using your voice is. And naturally, I'm actually a very introverted and shy person, but when your island is at threat and there's great effects to your people, you have to use your voice. And I think from there I first went to COP, which was held in Glasgow in Scotland. And we were just the youth representatives at that time, because COVID was going on, so there wasn't much youth presence, but we spoke at a lot of events. We also used the power of dance to try and get messages across and just be that representation, wearing our traditional attire, trying to show all of these big corporations and governments outside of the Pacific how fundamental our islands and our culture are to us. And there's already islands in the Pacific that are at threat and facing sea level rise and other environmental issues. So we had to show them that it's urgent and it's not to happen in the future, it's happening right now. And yeah, I think I've tried to weave in environmental advocacy with performing arts, and yeah, that's the main message I want to get across in a lot of the work I do.
Wow, environment in the arts. That's something I could only dream of, but I'm so sorry. I'm very intrigued. Could you sort of elaborate on that?
Oh, okay. So as I was saying, I co-wrote and co-directed a theatre production with Matavai. They produced it, and we had about 250 Pacific Island youth that resided in Sydney. So we shared a storyline of some different stories that happened throughout the Pacific where our people showed resilience. And so through we shared these stories through dance and also acting. But key stories that we told was in Tonga, they had an eruption at that time, the volcanic eruption that displaced their people from their villages.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of after effects of that, and how that showed a lot of resilience in Tongan people. When environmental disasters hit, they don't just wait around idle. They mobilize their communities. Everyone has a role to play. They adapt and they mitigate, and that's been the way of Pacific people for generations. So I think there's so many cultural histories. I'm sure there's a lot in Palau where Palau might be facing environmental challenges, and they pivot and they adapt to situations. But I find that very inspiring, and sometimes we take for granted those stories in our history. But I think, we're at a time where there's a cultural renaissance that we need to remind our youth who they are and the power that they come from.
Yes, reminding the youth about their cultural identity is just such a topic that hits home for me personally. And I think that's something we really need to shed more light on. So I would love to ask, what are your opinions or thoughts on the current situation of the youths and their roles, responsibilities regarding cultural preservation?
Yeah, well, I can speak for the youth in Samoa that I spend a lot of my time with. I think they're definitely proud to be Samoan, and they live their culture every day on their island. But often throughout history, we've lost a lot of knowledge, and sometimes we're not reviving old practices that I think when it comes to climate change, we have a lot of traditional knowledge that are the answers that the rest of the world needs to mitigating to climate change. We have a lot of traditional knowledge when it comes to mangroves, to the ocean, to the land. We have stories connected. I think everything that we have on our islands we treat as sacred. And there's like a certain outlook that we have that some of the Western cultures they've lost in their own culture as well. So I think in Samoa, the youth we work with, we try and remind them. Sometimes we have to go back in order to go forward. I think a lot of our islands have many proverbs to do with this. But they're definitely very attentive, and they come alive when there's creative things a part of the programs. So when I teach dance to the young children, I think they're most attentive to just regurgitating information. So sometimes we need to think of innovative ideas on how to engage them. So there's a few programs in islands where we share, traditional knowledge that they might have not learnt before through creative ways, which is really special. And Pacific youth in general, I think they just need to keep pursuing their gifts and talents, and they need to be probably better supported by the people around them. We have a lot of love in our families, but imagine pouring even more love into our children, and I'm sure that they can, dream bigger and do better in their lives.
Yes, and reach that potential that you just know is there.
Yes.
And you can never really imagine what that potential could do unless you foster it, nurture it, and let it grow to what it can become, just like a mangrove tree. Yes. So I know the viewers at home are probably the biggest question on their mind is, what brings you to Palau? Yes.
Well, actually, when I was crowned Miss Pacific Islands, the pageant included 3 women from North Pacific, Micronesian region. So the Miss Palau, Miss Nauru, as well as the Miss Marshall Islands. And I had learnt about this part of the Pacific before, but just, you know, being engaged with them in person and hearing their interview and they integrate examples of their own islands, it was even more of a push to want to visit their islands one day. So my visit to Palau is to learn as much as I can about your culture and your environment and people, but also kind of role model to other youth around the Pacific and the world that maybe when we're wanting to travel or learn about other parts of the world, sometimes we just need to look in our own, you know, in our own ocean of islands.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn here, and I hope to be able to share it and encourage others to appreciate more the interconnectedness of all of our islands. Yeah, I think that covers all of it, but I'm very grateful to be here, and after this trip I head to the Marshall Islands and Kiribati.
Oh, that's great. So how long will you stay in Palau until then?
So we're here for 1 week, leaving
Oh,
on Saturday.
sorry. Personally, I would like you to stay for at least 2 or 3, but I understand.
Yes, maybe the next trip.
Yes, you're always welcome back.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask you some questions regarding the pageant itself. I would like to ask you your experience during, before, and after, like the entire event. So if I may ask, how did you become Miss Samoa?
Yeah, right. So I entered the Miss Samoa pageant as Miss Samoa New South Wales. So that was my title that I went and competed in the pageant with. But I had a thought of maybe being interested in entering because my mum was a former Miss Samoa and Miss South Pacific at that time. So she was a lot of the inspiration behind, you know, entering. She showed me that, you know, there's no one way to be a Samoan woman, that, you know, you don't always have to be, I guess, timid or quiet. You can be anything you want. There's no criteria of how to be a Pacific woman. So then that really encouraged me to want to join. And fortunately I was successful in being crowned a Miss Samoa. I think that was definitely a dream come true because not only did I get to move back home, I also got to think of ideas and programs that I wanted to do to engage with the youth. And I did it on very limited resources, which goes to show that you don't need to have a lot to do a lot. You can work with what you have. And then from Miss Samoa, every Miss Samoa competes in the Miss Pacific Islands pageant. And then that was held in Nauru in 2024 February. And I think we had a lot of Palauan audience, I believe. So yeah, I think they were able to stay up to date with all of that. And then since Miss Pacific, I've had some travels through the region, but I'm actually in my last months of being the Miss Pacific. So it's kind of a little bit, not sad, but like a bittersweet feeling that, you know, we're doing things right up until the end of the reign, and someday soon a new Miss Pacific will be crowned, and hopefully she can follow the momentum of uniting all of us.
Yes, once a queen, always a queen. Yeah, that goes for everybody. I think what you're doing and the vision and the vision and inspiration you have behind going forward is really inspirational. As someone who tries to grow out of the bubble or box that you can sometimes be shoved into, to see that there's other ways to grow and branch out, it's just absolutely spectacular because it just brings more inspiration to people who think that they can't grow that beyond what they currently are. So I just gotta thank you and applaud you and commend you for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so this is probably just a very general question. I have to ask, what are your goals for 2025, the new year?
Yeah, I think starting the year off in Nauru, before we came to Palau, we were in Nauru. It really reminded me of that I think my life's calling is to try and keep doing work that unites our region. Since I was little, I always believed that if we're united against the world, we can really do anything. And then when we go through challenges, if we stay as one Pacific family, we'll be so much stronger. So I hope that I can keep traveling throughout the region. But I'd also like to do more work with young people, with performing arts, because that's a passion of mine, and serving anywhere that I can. I think I've never really had a set plan when it came to what I want to be when I grow up. I think I just rely on praying and just keep following the path that and different opportunities that come my way. But I'll be in Samoa, so if any Palauans are in Samoa, feel free to reach out and hopefully I can meet you and show you around as well. But another goal is just to be authentic in who I am and be a role model for other people to know that there's so many more pathways that you can take. And yeah, there's no one way to be a Pacific woman.
Yeah. I just love that. There's no one way to be a Pacific woman. I might get that printed on a t-shirt and I'll probably start wearing it every day. So how does it feel to have or to know that you have that sort of responsibility, or you're an inspiration in the eyes of the young one? How does it feel to have that on your shoulders?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's still very surreal, that people recognize you and then they want to come and take a photo, Miss Pacific. But it's such an honor. And these are the memories and experiences that I will look back on and tell my future children about. So that's really exciting. But it also comes with a heavy responsibility to try and live my life in a way that, that is a good example for the young people and future generations to come. There's so much work to do in our region, and we face a lot of similar challenges, especially to do with the environment and reviving culture and continuing to fight so that it prolongs for generations to come. And I think we all have a part to play in keeping our culture alive, serving our elders, but also passing on the knowledge to our youth.
Yeah, every action counts, whether it's big or small. If it contributes, it contributes. There's that one saying where the tiniest drop of water can become an ocean.
Yes.
Or I could be wrong, but you get the idea. So your experience as Miss Pacific Island is, I'm going to assume, is like a highlight?
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So what was your experience like during the pageant itself? What was your thought process, your mentality? What kept you going?
Yeah, so the Miss Pacific Islands has different categories that you have to do for the pageant night. So one of the, I think, most pressuring categories is the talent. For myself, I performed the fire knife dancing. So it's performed with a weapon we call nifo'oti, and it has fire on both ends. And there's one knife, but also we practice it with two knives. And nowadays we've added more knives in the practice. So for me, I just wanted to ensure that I put on a good show for all of the Pacific people watching. So that was a bit of pressure, but I just tried to practice as much as I could. Nauru told me that they'd never had fire knife in their island, so then that was even more of a responsibility to do well. But I loved engaging with the other pageant sisters that we had a part of the program, and learning from them, learning about their islands. I've been able to visit Miss Tonga in Tonga, visit her for the first time in Tonga, coming to Palau. I met the recent newly crowned Miss Nauru recently too. So I think there's a network that you start to gain, and lots of special memories.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I hope one day I myself, or maybe my sister, because she's more into this kind of stuff, gets to experience what you've experienced. But also, I hope that for the rest of the young ladies, the little girls who dream of being a Pacific Island princess.
Yes, I know. It is kind of living out that reality, because you're treated with love from the people, but you also get to, give back more. But I would definitely encourage the Miss Palau as a pathway, because you gain a lot of great experiences and opportunities into the future.
Yeah. Ooh. All right. So I do have a few questions that I've listed down. If it's all right, if I could ask you. There might be questions that we've already covered. So let's see. What is on my list? Here we go. So it is 2025, so we're in between. It's 25 years since 2020, the beginning of the millennium, but also 25 years until 2050. So I'm going to ask, where do you see yourself in the next maybe 10, 15, or 25 years?
That's a hard question. Well, as I was saying, my family has a Pacific Cultural Center in Sydney. And I've seen this as a great way to bring community together. And I'm thinking that maybe in the future, my role with Matavai, or something, creating a sense or a place of gathering for our people, because there's a lot of power when you come to the cultural center, when you have the Māoris and the Fijians and the Samoans and Tongans. When they come together, there's not only a lot of stories being shared and love being given, but I think we come up with more innovative ideas on how we can do things together as one. So I would probably see in the 10-year plan to hopefully continue to grow this center, so that we can not only build ourselves, but show visitors what it's like to be in the Pacific. Tourism is such a big revenue for our islands, and if we can bring more people to our islands, teach them about our culture and the way that we live, I think that can have a lot of positive influence. I think throughout all of our histories in the Pacific, foreigners might take and take and take from our islands, but we need to probably teach them and show them the way that we live in the Pacific, which is, everything is reciprocal. When you receive something, you often gain something back. But I think that's in my 10-year plan, and I want to probably be in Samoa definitely a lot more, and be a representative for Samoa.
Oh, that's really great, though. And I'm so happy. I'm very happy that you're so passionate about the arts and how to use it as much in other fields. Now, at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that you are interested in also writing and directing, and then you've also mentioned that you're working on a short film, if I remember correctly. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, or what got you into wanting to write and direct?
There's so many stories in our region that we can share, and the short film that I'm working on at the moment is all based in Samoa, in Samoan language. I think there's definitely a lot more work we can do in supporting the arts. So more work that we produce will probably encourage future upcoming filmmakers or writers to produce more stories for our region. In Samoa, we've been working on this film. We've done the casting. So we tended to try and do our audition calls in to attract all of the villages, So we took the auditions to Sava'i, which is more of a traditional, they practice still the traditional Fat Samoa culture.
Wow.
So we brought in a lot of the auditionees, and some of them were casted in the film, as well as we held auditions in another island. But our story is about a young person who is going through different challenges, mental health, as well as just the pressures of family. You juggle a lot of responsibilities as a daughter of a Pacific family, and sometimes can become overwhelming. And so for this particular girl, she falls on the values that her culture teaches her and an old story, and she's able to navigate her way out of these challenges.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm very looking forward. I would love to see that. Will this short film be published online where everyone can access it?
Yes, eventually we hope that it will be accessible to everyone, but hopefully by mid-2025 it will be all completed, and we'll just be showing it to different audiences.
Wow. Ooh, that's another thing to look forward to in 2025, y'all. Okay, so you're a dancer, and now you're writing, directing. Is there anything else? What about sports?
Oh, no, I'm not. I used to play sports. I used to play tennis, but not professionally. But I think anything to do with sports now, actually, fire knife takes a lot of like arm work, and it's quite hard. So when I practice the Siva'afi, it is kind of like a sport as well. It takes a lot of energy, and it's quite tiring as well.
That is absolutely amazing. If I'm not mistaken, I think also here in Palau we don't really play. I'm so sorry, not play with fire. We don't have any cultural performances related to fire. But then again, I might be mistaken. So if you don't mind me asking, how did you get into fire dancing?
Yeah, so my dad taught me fire dancing at the cultural center.
Wow.
And at that time there wasn't many girls practicing. But there's this world competition that happens in Hawaii at the Polynesian Cultural Center. And that's where all of fire knife dancers come to compete for, being the best fire knife dancer in the world. So I joined in 2019. Wow. And I competed in the women's category, and I put a lot of work into that, and was fortunate to gain the second place. But competing in the pageant kind of delayed me going back to the competition. But maybe in the near future, if I put a lot of work into Siva'afi, I might compete again.
Again, I really, personally, I do hope you get a chance to go back to that, because fire dancing seems very fun. Yeah. It's very beautiful. As much as I would like to, I probably shouldn't, because I'm a very clumsy person and I might burn myself. But yes, anyways, I would like to ask you one of the next questions on my list. So, now you did mention that your mom was also held the title of Miss Samoa or Miss South Pacific. I would just like to ask about your relationship with her through that. And I could tell that she was an inspiration for you to join the pageant. So could you tell us a little bit more about you and your mom?
Yeah, so my mom was the Miss Samoa, Miss Pacific Islands in 1997 and 1998. And she was quite well known for this Siva Samoa that she performed as her talent. And it was about the manumea bird, which is Samoa's national bird. And actually this bird is endangered now, and it's very hard to find. But I think throughout her reign she was very passionate about environmental conservation as well. And the dance that she performed, which was called the manumea, is still performed to this day, so about 26, 27 years later.
Wow.
And there's a lot of young children that perform this dance. And it serves as a reminder to Samoans and other people how much we need to preserve not only our culture, but our wildlife and our environment. And she was probably the backbone of me joining the pageant. She helped me with everything that I needed to organize for joining the pageant, and she's helped me throughout the year with the programs, teaching dance to the children. So I'm very grateful for my parents, because not everyone has their parents or elders in their life that they can fall on for support. But when you do have your parents or your grandparents, you should really treasure your time with them because, yeah, they are your greatest support in life. And I've been very fortunate that they've been in my journey through the Moemoana Pacific.
That's really heartwarming. Parents and family in general are the foundation, if I may say, are the foundation of who a person is and who a person can become. Were there any expectations that you felt about following in her footsteps or, well, competing into the pageant?
Yes, definitely, because of course she won the title, so there was a little bit of a push that, from the general public, Moemoana has to be. But of course, things don't just get handed to you. You have to work for it. And my year, for both Miss Samoa and Miss Pacific, there was so many intelligent and talented women that were a part of it. So it was a challenge, but I'm very blessed to hold the title, and I hope I've done it justice throughout the year. But I think for all of us, we go through ups and downs all the time, and there's a lot of mental health challenges that young people face especially. But if you can rely on the people around you, that's a really good support system.
Yes, I agree completely. If I may ask, do you think that if you weren't to participate in the initial pageants, where do you think you would be right now?
Yeah, well, before joining the pageant, I used to work at a museum, and it has about 60,000 Pacific artifacts.
Wow.
It's based in Sydney, Australia. There was a small collection from Palau as well. But these artifacts date back to the 1800s when missionaries and other people traveled through the islands and took a lot of the traditional artifacts or were gifted the artifacts. So I was one of the cultural research officers that would try and connect the communities back to their objects so that they can see them again, talk stories about the objects, or if they're not made anymore, try and revive them. In my time, we did have President Rivengasau come to our collection, which was a great honor, and he got to see some of our cultural artifacts from Palau. But just working in the collections, you see that we all use similar materials, and that there's a lot of similarities, and that we're very adaptable and resourceful. So we draw from the land to continue sustaining our livelihoods in the ocean and on the land. So perhaps I would still be working at the museum. And I always had a dream to move back to Samoa. So yeah, I think anything would have brought me back to being her.
Yeah, so when there's a will, there's a way. You will always find your way home. Yes, I'm really happy for this opportunity to get to talk to you, but also learn and gain all this insightful information and wisdom. Because these are things that I guess today, or well, in the before, we don't really tend to look into it. But then it's so great to see now that so many other people in our communities are really putting focus and work and effort into preserving our culture and our environment, because we won't have these forever.
Yes.
And you can only work on preserving something if you realize that there's a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah. And we have so many youth ambassadors at the moment in the Pacific that are doing great work.
Yes.
I think a lot of the Pacific has been looking to the political issues happening in New Zealand and Aotearoa, and there's one of the youngest MPs that are in Parliament. She's a Māori woman, Hana Rafiti,
Wow.
and I'm not sure her video of doing the haka in Parliament went quite viral. And she's a young woman, so we have so many young people rising up, learning from their elders and taking the initiative to, if they see an issue or a challenge, they do something about it. And I think we can all draw inspiration from that, try and, for the betterment of our countries that we come from, try and do all that we can to serve it.
Yeah, the only way we could get something to be seen, to be heard, is if we step outside of that comfort zone and really be like, hey, we're here. This is what's going on. This is what's happening, and here's what we want to do about it.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, oh, so many thoughts are running through my head right now. I'm very scared I might say the wrong thing, but this is I'm absorbing a lot of this.
And I'm absorbing from you.
Thank you. So I really have to ask, or maybe I don't, but I kind of want to. Do you ever feel like, how do I say this in a way that would make sense? Do you ever feel like this was your initial calling, or if you, going back to my previous question, if you weren't to go into the pageant, you would still presumably work at the museum, would you still fight for your beliefs just as hard as you are now?
Yes, definitely. Not only my upbringing influenced the way I see the world and want to do things for the Pacific, but also my studies. I was studying Indigenous studies and environmental humanities. So
Wow.
it is things that I'm passionate about. And I think regardless if I had the title and crown or not, I would probably still be in this line of work and passionate about these things. Actually, it brings up a thought of during my reign as Miss Pacific, I was fortunate to go to the Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture in Hawaii, and there was a Palauan group that came and did an amazing performance. But there was so much, there's like a kind of unspoken energy and spirit that you feel when you're all together, especially in the opening ceremony. We had all the Pacific cultures uniting. Yeah, it's really special, and it's kind of hard to explain. I'm not sure if you felt it that yourself, but that pride that you feel.
Yes.
And you feel a part of something so great. And I think a quote that we heard a lot was, we should not be defined by the smallness of our islands, but by the greatness of our oceans.
Yes.
And sometimes when youth come from small places, maybe they might shrink down their dreams or their aspirations, but we should definitely not think of that. We should draw on how we are from the greatest ocean when we're thinking of what we can become and what we can do.
Yes, the Festival of the Pacific Arts was, for me, it was such an impact. Not only was it watching my country perform, but also watching my friends, classmates, people I know go out and just do something great and represent our small island. And it's also the joy of seeing and knowing that even though there's so many differences between the Pacific Islands, at heart we're all united by this one thought and one concept, and that it's like a spider web.
Yes.
Yes, you have a few drops here and there that may vary in sizes and where they came from, but they're all connected.
Yeah.
Either it's through experiences, history, music, arts, anything and everything in between.
Yeah, and our people are very talented. Not only with the dancing and the music, but there was also a carving station, and all of the master carvers and artists were gathering from the Pacific. Palau was there too. And you just see so much creativity come alive, and I would love to see more spaces or opportunities where this can happen, sharing and connecting.
Yes. So I would like to know, what are your at least top 5, top 3 highlights as your reign, but also from 2024?
2024. So my mom's side, she's from a village called Awala in Asau in Savai'i. And during my reign as Miss Samoa, my villages were very proud to have the Miss Samoa be from these places. So definitely a highlight was being able to go back to my mom's villages, to where I come from, and we danced together. I taught them the Sivafi, and hopefully I can go back and do that. Another highlight was definitely the Festival of Pacific Arts and Culture. It just opened my eyes up to yeah, all of our nations, and actually we had some Pacific Islands, New Caledonia and Vanuatu, who weren't present at the festival, but they were going through political conflict.
Yeah.
So it just kept in mind as well that there's so much more that needs to be done for our islands, and if we can continue to support each other, you know, that's really good too. And I would say another highlight was planning this trip. Was planning the trip through Micronesia, because I was supposed to come at the end of 2024, but God's plan worked out and I was still able to come here before and as Miss Pacific.
Yes, it's just a blessing all around. There's so many, I almost lost my train of thought. So many things that happen that to be fortunate and grateful for. And I will just keep on saying, I'm very grateful for this experience to have with you, to have this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, this is going to be a core memory lodged in my brain.
I'm really glad that I could be here, and I'm sure we have a lot of Palau watching, but I believe that probably my family are watching the live stream as well.
Yes, so shout out to her family. Yes, shout out to all the viewers. So if I'm not mistaken, we have a few 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the 10 minutes. This is your time to shine. You can say anything and everything you would like to say to the viewers at home.
Nice. Well, I just want to say a big thank you to Palau for the very warm welcome, and I hope that you can continue to follow the updates of our journey here. We've had so much help from the Palau Visitors Authority. Miss Palau has been alongside us as well. When we were in Nauru, it was very easy to mobilize community, because as we do in the Pacific Way, you know, when you greet guests, there's a lot of people that come together to make things happen. So thank you to Palau for making this trip for me very memorable, and we have a big itinerary for the rest of the week, visiting Rock Island and doing an aerial tour, and you can keep up to date on the Miss Pacific Islands page, as well as my own personal Moemoana Schwenke on social media. But I just want to give another encouragement to all of you to continue pursuing your goals and your dreams in 2025. There's never been a greater need to keep working for your islands, and you can do a lot of work locally or in the region or internationally. I think we need to take hold of the opportunities that we have, and I think a lot of the time when I go to different events internationally, there's always a big presence from perhaps the Polynesian communities, but I want to see more Micronesian leaders and young representatives, because I think there's so much power. When I went to COP, it was actually the Marshall Islands representatives that really made me more passionate about climate change, because they speak truth, they speak the lived reality of their islands when it comes to climate change. There's no other experts but the people who live the effects of climate change every day, and I hope that I can continue making connections with the people of the North Pacific, also Melanesia, and I think the pageant is a way that we can keep connecting and ensuring that all of us are included in spaces. And nothing but love and respect for the people of Palau, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of our trip.
Yes, thank you. I do hope the rest of your time spent here is time well spent. There's so much of our beautiful island that I would love you to see and experience firsthand. And this experience itself is such an eye-opening one, because I feel like maybe myself and some of the viewers at home could say that they're living vicariously through you and your experience, but also through our very own Miss Palau. And I feel like this is just going to be another eye-opening experience for a lot of the younger girls and ladies who think that just because just because some people say you have to do this a certain way doesn't mean you can't branch out and do it your way in a different way. Like you said before, there's many ways to be a Pacific Island woman, but also be a Pacific Island man. We're not limited. We're not being limited. But yes, so I guess I have one final question for you. In 2025, whether it's this month, next week, tomorrow, or sometime in maybe November or December, what are you looking forward? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, something big that's coming up is the Miss Pacific Islands pageant. That's going to be held in Honiara, Solomon Islands. So that's when the crown will be passed to another young woman from the Pacific, and you'll see updates probably towards the end of January as we start to build momentum for the pageant. So after the pageant, I'll probably go into full production with the short film. So that's something that is big on the goals for this year, is completing that, because I know now it won't just be Samoan audiences, but perhaps there'll be some Palauans and other people of the Pacific watching too.
Yes, you can definitely count on that. Pacific Islanders, or maybe it's just Palau, but we're known for spreading the word pretty quickly. Yes, so there's so much to look forward to, so much to keep an eye out for. And like our special guest said, you can check out updates on her and her journey through her social media pages. And social media is Instagram.
Yes, and Facebook.
Facebook. Do you have a YouTube?
Yes, there is a YouTube too. It's Moemoana Schwenke.
Yes, so those will be put up later. Just stay tuned on the TMC Facebook page, TMC YouTube channel, or if you see me walking on the street, feel free to come and ask. I'll do my best to come up with the right and correct information for you. But yes, once again, thank you so much for this experience. I don't know how many times can one person say thank you before it gets annoying. But yes, just to repeat the words I've said at the beginning and earlier, this experience is very eye-opening. There's a lot of inspiration and a lot to be learned from just this 1 hour conversation. I do wish we could keep this going, but people gotta run on a schedule.
I want to say thank you to you too. It's really inspiring to see a young Palauan woman doing work like this in the media and sharing stories, and yeah, hopefully a lot more people will take up this profession. So you're doing a very good job.
Thank you. I'm trying my best. But yes, you're always welcome back to Palau.
Thank you.
Like, our gates, our oceans are always open. If you can't catch a flight, then we'll send somebody on a canoe to go and grab you.
Thank you.
But yes,
Thank you, TMC, for having me.
yes, and I do hope that we cross paths again
Yeah,
one day.
maybe the pageant.
Oh, maybe. We'll see. But yes, so thank you so much for coming. Also, thank you to the viewers at home. Comrade Masulang, sticking with us till the end. And I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I've enjoyed being here. Yes. So I'm not sure if I might be the very last person to tell you. But when we say goodbye in Palauan, it's always, See, this is what happens. So many thoughts run through my brain, I forget my own
No,
language.
that's okay.
But we always say meigo, maguk next.
Very
O'oy, maguk next.
cool.
How do we say goodbye
In
in
Samoa,
Yes.
we say tofa soifo.
tofa
Soifo.
soifo?
Yeah.
Okay, tofa soifo. And thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much.
coming.
Thank
Yes.
you everyone for watching.
Thank you so much, viewers. You can check up on us on TMC Palau on Facebook, YouTube. Also, please go ahead and go on social media. For our older audience, please ask the young ones to help you figure out Instagram and follow Miss Pacific Islands journey. Comrade Masulang, this is the end of our talk show. Enjoy the rest of your week and Happy New Year's 2025.